what good is coming to me. Yeah, I claim a blessing. I claim it. I claim a blessing. I claim it. Yeah, yeah. I claim a blessing. I claim it. Ooh, I claim a blessing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bring it to me. Give it to me. Now bring it on me. I claim a blessing.
In the morning when I get out of bed, I claim a blessing. Good morning and welcome this morning to Unity of the Blue Ridge. Welcome from near and far. I'm here this morning with Richard Schulman, our music director, and Tia and Acela on camera and sound. So the four of us send a warm welcome to you wherever you are this morning. Today I'm excited about the series. Last week I kicked off a 10-week winter series based on the presence of love and really how to begin to understand how do we embody and live out this love that we are. I'm pulling from many different spiritual traditions, from unity principles, and from this book, The Laws of Love by Paul Ferrini. And so today we're going to jump into week 2 of that. But before we do, I want to open with a prayer. As we turn our awareness within this morning, we give thanks for this beautiful morning. We give thanks for this day wherever we are. We allow ourselves today to really move into the question, the invitation, the truth of what it means to really know that we are one spiritual family, that we are connected, that we are all equal manifestations of the one life. And what does that really mean? And as we explore this today, we do so with an open heart and an open mind. We give thanks for our ability to be together right here and right now. And so in that name of all that is holy, and so it is. Amen. You know, I was thinking this week about Shirley Chisholm. Some of you may remember who she is. Back in 1972, she was the first woman, she was a black woman, who ran for president. She ran against George Wallace. And it was not a pretty process. And Wallace had a lot of negative things to say about Shirley. But you may remember that election year, George Wallace was shot. And while he was in the hospital, Shirley Chisholm was one of the first people to go visit him. And George Wallace said to her, he said, "Your people, your voters are not going to like this, that you're visiting me." And as it turned out, that was true. Some of her followers and those who would have voted for her stopped because she went to visit George Wallace. But she looked at him, and her reply was, "I would not want this to happen to anyone." And you know, that says a lot about an individual when those who have spoken falsehoods against us, not been nice to us, when if and when they're harmed, we'd be willing to go visit and honestly do our best to help them out. I think if there's anything our world needs now, it's a big dose of that. Well, that's what we're going to dive into today. How do we live out the truth that we are connected in spirit? And so we've got a song for you by Paula Hankey, Always Be Humble and Kind. But before that, I reached out to Ellen Winter, our board president, who so often we see her with her donkeys. But I just asked Ellen if she would send a hello to all of you today. So Ellen Winter and then Paula Hankey.
I'm Ellen Winter, president of the Board of Trustees of Unity of the Blue Ridge. In this winter of change and tumultuous transition, there is a lot of beauty that we do not see. Acts of kindness and generosity abound in our community and from strangers. While we have been away, our building has undergone a renovation to prepare it for this decade of being a spiritual hub housing love. Our grounds have been lovingly nurtured. Our staff and board has displayed incredible adaptability and flexibility. As Reverend Chad O'Shea taught for many years, the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. As we step into this new year of hope and progress, we understand that things are certainly not as we would prefer. What is ours to do then is to stay on our own path of love and inclusivity, and to hold the light high so that it shines on all. We continue to know that we are one and that God is in all things. Remember to look for the beauty.
There's a light that glows by the front door. Don't forget the keys under the mat. Childhood stars shine, always stay humble and kind. Go to church 'cause your mama says to. Visit grandpa every chance that you get. It won't be a waste of time. Always stay humble and kind. Hold the door, say please, say thank you. Don't steal, don't cheat, and don't lie. No, you got mountains to climb, but always stay humble and kind. When the dreams you're dreaming come to you, when the work you put in is realized, let yourself feel the pride, but always stay humble and kind. Don't expect a free ride from no one. Don't hold a grudge or a chip, and here's why. Bitterness keeps you from flying. Always stay humble and kind. Know the difference between sleeping with someone you love. I love you ain't no pickup line, so always stay humble and kind. Hold the door, say please, say thank you. Don't steal, don't cheat, and don't lie. I know you got mountains to climb, but always stay humble and kind. When the dreams you're dreaming come to you, when the work you put in is realized, let yourself feel the pride, but always stay humble and kind. Yeah. When it's hot, eat a root beer popsicle. Shut off the AC and roll the windows down. Let that summer shine. Always stay humble and kind. Don't take for granted the love this life gives you. When you get where you're going, don't forget to turn back round. Help the next one in line. Always stay humble and kind. Hold the door, say please, say thank you. Don't steal, don't cheat, and don't lie. You got mountains to climb, but always stay humble and kind. yourself, feel the pride, but always stay humble and kind. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love that song. Always stay humble and kind. What a powerful, powerful song. Thank you, Paula, and thank you, Richard, and thank you, Unity Band. Thank you for being here today. I want to show you an image back from 1961. 60 years ago, the Saturday Evening Post featured the Golden Rule painting on its cover. It was a memorable painting from Norman Rockwell. 60 years ago in 1961. Diana Butler Bass said about that painting on the Post at that time, she said, when you look at it, you can feel the aspirations of America at that time, the dawning of President Kennedy becoming the new president, the yearning for the war to end and true peace, the desire to live together, to be free of concerns of nuclear destruction, to overcome division. That image drew Americans to what we could be, what we hoped democracy would do, and how a great religious and philosophical principle might mitigate our worst tendencies and bring out our better angels or our braver angels. That Norman Rockwell painting, the Golden Rule. You know, the Golden Rule, Jesus taught the practice of equality, that if we are to live our oneness, last week we talked about oneness, that there is one source and we are all expressions of the one source. And we talked about how to be in relationship with all that is, with the one. Well, today we take it another step to equality, how we are in relationship to one another. And if you look to Jesus, Jesus gave us that key, that the practice of equality, when he said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. The golden rule, which is found in every spiritual tradition, to love the other, to do no harm to others as you would to yourself or to those that you love. It's namaste, the greeting that says, I behold the divine in you, that I behold that same sacredness in you. In the Old Testament, in Proverbs 22, it says, the rich and poor have this in common. The Lord made them both. You could take it a step further and say those we like and those we dislike, those who are good-hearted and those who are mean-spirited, are all created from the same source. In Galatians, in the New Testament, there's neither Jew nor Gentile, there's neither slave nor free, there's neither male nor female, and that was radical in the time it was spoken, but that we're all one. It's to understand, to move beyond the outer lampshade and to recognize the light that is the essence of all. I believe Jesus really sought to teach this to his closest followers, to anyone and everyone. I also believe that it is the heart that this golden rule, equality, spiritual equality, do unto others, love others as we would love ourselves, as we would love those that are easy to love. I believe it's found at the heart of all the sacred texts, the religious traditions, because that is the work, that is what we're here to do. And in doing that, in striving for that, it's about who we become in the process. In Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, Jesus is recorded as saying, talking to his disciples, why, when I was hungry, did you not feed me? Why, when I was sick, did you not help me? Why, when I was naked, did you not clothe me? Why, when I was in prison, did you not visit me? And they looked at him and said, Lord, when did we see you hungry or sick or naked or in prison? And he looked back and he said, I'm going to tell you truth, a truth, the truth, that whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me. Now, if you really think about that, and that's what he was hoping they would do, is to begin to understand they were wanting to see him as special, and he was wanting them to see all beings as sacred. In Buddhism, it's taught that we all have the Buddha nature. In Islam, no one of you is a believer until he or she loves his brother or sister the way that one loves the self. I like the way Paul Selig says it. You cannot be the light and hold your brother in the darkness. And so today we explore this teaching, the Golden Rule. Really, what does it mean to understand that we are all the likeness and image of God, and to truly want the best for others? That we can't claim our own oneness. We can't really embody our own inherent worthiness unless we're able to claim it and see it for others. And there are no exceptions for better or worse. There are no buts. You know, we may say, but what about those people that stormed the Capitol? What about those people that desecrated it, that acted with violence and malice, even killed? And what about our elected officials who are sworn to uphold the interest of all, we the people, and yet instead publicly degrade and humiliate, speak lies and promote falsehoods, incite fear or violence? How do you hold them in the light? Well, that's my question today. How do you hold them in the light? How do I hold them? How do we hold each other in the light? Because you can. And an important thing to point out is you can hold your brother and sister in the light and hold them accountable. You see, it's not an either or. It's a both and, that we need to hold ourselves accountable for our thoughts and our actions, our deeds, and we need a system and laws and order that will allow us to hold one another accountable. So holding an individual in the light and still holding them accountable absolutely needs to happen. But here's the thing, if you cannot first hold them in the light, if you honestly can't hold them in the light, then you can't simply hold them accountable because you're wanting to get back, to get even, to get revenge. You see, there's some added to that. There's something added to it. And that's where our work comes in. How do we deal with that stands between me and holding any one of you in the light? Now again, we can still hold accountable for actions. We know that bad or evil behavior need to be called out. But how do we do that without demonizing the person? How do we not get on Facebook and say things about them that aren't good? And so I'm calling all of us higher to love our neighbor as we love ourselves, spiritual equality, that we cannot disregard the well-being and the spiritual essence of any individual and be in right relationship with our source and with ourselves, that all beings are equal manifestations of spirit. That's the work, and it's not easy work, I'll be the first to say. In the book, The Laws of Love, Paul Farini, I want to share with you a little that he says about this. The commitment to equality is the basis for a spiritually informed society and social action in our world. Equal rights is and has been the number one cause for all men and women of conscience throughout history. The doctrine of equality, the great spiritual teaching of the planet, is found in the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. These are not just political documents, these are sacred texts, because they embody the highest truths. A person who attempts to live the law of equality is constantly asked to stretch and go beyond his or her comfort zone. She is frequently asked to let go of biases and embrace a wider and more generous perspective about other people. He is asked to walk in the moccasins of his opponent and to understand the perspective of those with whom he disagrees. To be committed to human rights, the demonstration on planet Earth of the spiritual principle of equality. One cannot have a narrow mind or a closed heart. The spiritual path of those who are committed to equality presents them with ever-challenging opportunities to give up false and limited ideas and embrace a deeper and more inclusive truth. But that's the teaching of the Master. That's the teaching of all spiritual masters. To do unto them as you would have them do unto you. To love your neighbor as yourself. That is the golden rule for all human interactions. We know that in truth, but it becomes simply a platitude if we're not living it out and striving to live it out. I believe that we're finding ourselves as a world and as a country, as communities, as homes, we're finding ourselves struggling. We're finding our nation and our neighborhoods polarized. When that happens, when half the people feel this way and the other half feel that way, then something bigger is seeking to break forth. But it's not going to just descend down upon us. It is going to happen because it will rise up through us. And friends, if you are watching today, I believe that you know that, and I believe that you want a beloved community. I believe you do. And so I'm calling us higher. I'm calling us to figure out how to be the way and how to lead the way. I want to look at 5 steps that I'm calling sort of like a stairway or a ladder to equality, to how do we live in the truth of our oneness. And so number 1, you could say, is love, that we're called to love. And love for some is easy. I think that's why we have pets. Pets teach us how to have unconditional love. That's why we have beautiful little babies. Babies are so innocent and beautiful that it's easy to have unconditional love. It's easy to love some people. But I don't know of anybody, including me, where it's easy to truly love all people. But that's the ideal, is to love unconditionally all. But you may say, yeah, but in this situation, I can't even get close to love. So what is the next thing? Well, the next would be compassion. Can you have compassion? And you may say, I can't even connect with compassion right now. The third is, can you seek to understand? There are times we'll find ourselves saying, you know what? I can't even. So if we can't love, if we're not ready for compassion, if we don't even want to seek to understand, the fourth one is, can you be willing? At least be willing to be willing. And I'll break these down in just a minute. And then honestly, at times, especially if there's been trauma or deep hurt, we will find ourselves saying, honestly, I'm not even willing right now. I just honestly can't. I don't even know how. Then that fifth rung is tend to where it hurts. Because if you're willing to notice within yourself, I can't do any of those things, then tend to where it hurts. Because if you are doing that, then at least you are not perpetuating the hurt. You're not discharging the hurt. You're not passing the hurt and the pain on. Can you see that if all of us would strive to be doing at least one of those things, then we would stop being part of the problem. And we would be part of the healing at different levels. And if you really think about it, in different areas of our life, it's not that I'm either loving, or I'm either seeking to understand, or I'm either tending to where it hurts. We're doing some of all of those in different relationships. That's the way that life works. But there are other choices. There are other choices that can be mean, that can be spiteful, that can be unwilling to self-reflect. But I'm asking us to get onto that ladder and hang on for dear life. Hold on to at least one of these in every area, in every relationship, and to realize that every encounter is a holy encounter. Every relationship is a relationship with a manifestation of the one Spirit. So number one, unconditional love. The way to unconditional love is the path of self-realization. It comes through prayer and meditation. It comes through allowing yourself to experience the love that is your very essence. The more time you spend in that field, in that vibration of unconditional love, the more you are able to embody it. The more you give thanks for it when you feel it with your pet, you feel it with that one person, you feel it with that grandbaby or that newborn baby, you feel it with them, and you let it soak in, and you give thanks for the power of unconditional love. The second is to have compassion. The path to compassion is to notice when we're not having it. I'll tell on myself. I was driving to church one day, and as I was almost here, a truck was sitting at a stop sign and just made a left turn, and as the truck pulled out and turned left, it turned right, it just pulled right out in front of a car, and literally when the truck pulled onto its lane, it ran a little car all the way off the road in the shoulder, almost in the ditch. Now, I was coming this way toward it was happening. So I slowed down, my heart was beating, and fortunately the truck just kept going and the little car was able to get back on the road and take off. And instantaneously, I had compassion for the driver of the little car. I did not have so much compassion for the driver of the truck because my first, I was like, are you okay? And then my first thought was, what kind of idiot or who's a jerk? And I listened to myself because that was my honest reaction at the time. But here's the key. I didn't stay there because I noticed as, I think it was Martin Buber that said, we are either in relationship with the other as an I, thou, or an I, it. If I'm in a relationship with you as an I, thou, I'm seeing the namaste, the divine in both of us. But if I get in that relationship with an I, it is a stupid driver. It is a person who has 22 items in the 10-item checkout lane. It is a person who does whatever that tease us off. That if we get into that relationship with the other as an it and leave it there, it's dangerous for us and it's dangerous for them. And so I realized I had done that. I was feeling that. That was my reaction. And so to take myself to compassion, what I had to do is to say, well, what would enable me to feel compassion for both drivers? And that was pretty easy. I thought, well, if the driver of that truck had have been my 83-year-old father, and I witnessed it, I would have thought, oh my God, Dad, be careful. You could have got hurt. I'm glad you're both okay. If the driver of that truck had have been my nephew or a son or some young person, I would have thought, oh my God, be careful. I'm glad you're okay. You see, when we don't feel compassion, it requires work sometimes. And the work is in noticing it and being willing to realize what would it take. After I did that, and it really didn't take that long, but I was coming to church and I didn't want to come into church in particular feeling like, that's that sort of energy. But the minute I could put my father or someone I loved in the truck, then I could realize, who am I to judge? I don't know why the driver did that. I'm just very thankful they were both okay. Love. Compassion. The third is seek to understand. Can you talk in a way that others want to listen? Can you listen in a way that others want to talk? Do you honestly seek to understand? This week I put a post on Facebook. I said, please don't anyone reply with negative comments but I genuinely wanted to understand, why do what do people feel like has been taken away from our nation? I wanted to understand people that voted differently than I voted. And within less than an hour, I had to take the post down because it started getting crazy. But I got a number of private messages. More of them were from people that related to it like I did, but two people who held very differing views, who voted differently, two people responded and said, "Thank you for asking. I'd like to dialogue with you about it." And you know, I learned some stuff. Can we honestly seek to understand? And the other part of seeking to understand is, you know, an individual may talk to you or not. But we can't say, well, I can't understand if they won't talk to me. We can always try to put ourselves in the other's shoes. So love, compassion, seek to understand. The other thing about seeking to understand and being able to communicate is developing skills. You know, I've thought about in our society, we've been taught, don't talk about sex or religion or politics. Don't talk about those things when you're, you know, at family gatherings or with people who may disagree. Well, how has that served us? You know, we should be taught it's okay to talk about the tough things if you can do it in a way that is compassionate and civil. Instead of avoiding them, that's the exact opposite. We need to be able to engage and let it be okay and to have those differing opinions without wanting to kill each other. And so, you know, seek to understand, seek to develop your skills. We have a couple in the church, Charlie and Pam Rogers, who teach that. We as a spiritual community are part of Braver Angels that have Zoom conference calls with people or on both sides of the aisle, so to speak. There are many, many ways, nonviolent communication. We have others who teach that. Experience unconditional love. Seek to be compassionate. Seek to understand. The third is be willing. You know, we have to ask ourselves and be honest. What is my ultimate goal here? What is my intention? What is my purpose? Is my purpose to get back and show them and tell them where they're wrong? Or is my purpose first to be able to see the manifestation of God that is equal to me? And to find out how together we can move us further along. What is my purpose? And what is one thing that I'd be willing to do to move me closer to my desired outcome? Tony Robbins said we should never leave the scene of a decision without taking a specific action toward its realization. Love, compassion, seek to understand, and be willing. What action can you take to be willing? And the fifth is tend to where it hurts. It is okay, and it's part of being human to find yourself in places where I can't even. 1 through 4, I can't even. Because I'm so angry, I'm so frustrated, I'm so in shock. That's a part of our emotional response. There's a difference in how you're in relationship with it. Can I be in relationship with that? And so that I tend to where it hurts. I go in prayer, and what you'll find is there's a softening. And the good news is that you're not perpetuating the hurt and the harm. And my friends, you are part of the healing. If you will do any of these things, you are part of the healing. Richard, would you give me that song? When I lived in Hawaii, I learned about a man called Dr. Hoot Lin. And more than 30 years ago at the Hawaii State Hospital, there was a special ward. It was packed, it was overrun with heinous crimes, individuals who had committed those types of crimes. And according to the people that worked there, they said that it was just such a bad environment. They said, honest to God, the paint wouldn't even stick to the wall. They kept trying to repaint, but they said everybody wanted out of there, including the paint. That the workers wouldn't show up. They'd rather take sick days than be there. That it was just a terrible environment. And Dr. Hugh Lin came in and they asked him to work with the patients, and he did for 4 years. For 4 years, he never once met with the inmates, the patients. But what he did is he took their files and he worked with the information that he could gather about them. And something miraculous happened by the time the 4 years had ended. Over the period, slowly, little by little, the environment got better. People were working more. They said, honest to goodness, the paint even stayed on the walls. They began to plant some gardens outside. The inmates began to treat each other better. They began to want to be rehabilitated. And as the years went by, more and more people were released. Within 4 years, that environment had changed so much, and so many had been able to go on to a lower security facility or were discharged. So many, there was just such a few left. They literally closed that special hospital, that special ward. And so they went to him, and of course the question is, what did you do? What did you do with those files over 4 years that created such an outcome? And he said, here's the bottom line. He practiced something that the Hawaiians call ho'oponopono. And it's really a complex thing to understand, but at its essence, it's this. He said, before I went to the hospital each day, I would petition the divine to give me the single eye and to help me see. He said, if I ask you the object of baseball, what would you say? He said, the object of baseball is to keep your eye on the ball. He said, if I ask you the object of life, I hope you would say the object of life is to keep your eye on divinity, yours and theirs. He said, so each morning before I went in, I would petition the divine and to say, keep my eye single. Help me to see every single person as an equal manifestation of God first. And so he would sit with a file as long as it took. He would read that person's history, everything they did, until he could see that individual as an equal manifestation of God. And then he would look at all the crimes or whatever was wrong, and he would ask for forgiveness. And he could see how those crimes sometimes happen and things happen and people can get so broken. And he would ask forgiveness until he felt a sense of peace, and then he would put that file on. He said the key is to keep your eye on divinity. He said, you don't purify a person or a place or a thing. And you neutralize the energy you associate with the person, the place, or the thing. To keep your eye on your divinity. You know, tomorrow we celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I thought about, what if he had listened to the voices that said, Martin, they don't understand this nonviolent stuff, or this hatred will not drive out hatred, only love will do that. Martin, they're spitting at you. They're trying to kill you. You need to speak the language they need to speak and understand. You need to fight back. If he had lowered his vision, rather than holding the vision for oneness and a beloved community, rather than keeping his eye on the divinity of them and him, how different would it be? I think about Mother Teresa. When she stepped out with her bold vision, feeling that she had been called directly by Jesus. And people laughed at her and said, who are you? And Hindus and Muslims and Christians and even leaders in the Catholic Church said, why put the resources here? This is insignificant. Can you imagine how different it would be if she had lowered her vision rather than keeping her eye on the truth that all were divine and working for that equality? I think about Mahatma Gandhi, who, being thrown from a train and having his world rattled, went up against the whole British Empire. Can you imagine the people that said, Gandhi, you got to be crazy here. This is the British Empire, the power that they wield. And besides, you're a lawyer. You're doing okay. You can work for other things. Why not enjoy your privilege? Can you imagine if he had lowered his vision? But you see, the thing about these individuals is they kept their eye on their divinity and the divinity of all. And when we speak of equal rights today and loving our neighbor as ourselves, that's 3 names we recognize. And you may say, yeah, but you're talking about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and you're talking about Saint Mother Teresa, and you're talking about Mahatma Gandhi. But they were doing these things. They were living up to that vision when they were just Martin, just Agnes, and just Gandhi. My goal and my prayer in life is that I want to be known for standing up for the quality of all people. And that means I have to mind my post online. That means I have to notice those times I feel compassion for this one and I want to kick that one. Are you willing to do the work with me, my friends? Are we willing to call ourselves higher? You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. And that makes us part of one family. We're part of one family. The family of God. Breathing one spirit. Living one life. We're in this together. We're finding our way. Let love be our guiding light, and on course we'll stay. We are part of one family, one spirit. Each and every being is a manifestation of the one God, the one life. We don't show up equally. We don't appear to have equal resources, equal looks, equal luck, some may say. There are a lot of lampshades, and some of them are pretty crooked. That's true. And there's another truth, a spiritual truth that says that the light, the lamp itself, is a manifestation of the one. And so may we have the eyes to see that it is not an either or, but may we have a single eye that it is a both and. I can hold you in the light and hold you accountable. I can hold myself in the light and I must hold myself accountable. But Holy Spirit, let me feel this unconditional love. Let me recognize it. Let me radiate it. Let me be it. Let me strive for compassion. And when I find myself in those places where I am sorely lacking compassion, then let me seek to understand what's going on within me, and understand anything that may help. And may I always be willing. And may I take ownership for the places that hurt, that are angry, that are so frustrated, where there is disgust. I have to own those feelings and tend to those feelings so that I'm not adding to the hatred, to the hurt, to the brokenness, to the separateness. This is the great paradox, and this is the spirit and form. It is the dance that we do. It is the spirit that we are. May we be love. May we be compassion. May we seek to understand. May we be willing. And may we tend to what hurts, so that we do no harm. Because we're part of one family, the family of God. finding our way. Let love be our guiding light, and on horse will stay. Richard, would you tune in and play that vibration of love? Thank you. Wow, I hope you felt that. I hope it translated the way we can feel it in here. I've got goosebumps on my goosebumps. I want to thank you for being here and for starting this new year together. I have incredibly high hopes and just a sense that we are on the verge of something, and it does take place within us. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for your financial support throughout 2020. We were able to end our year in the black in the midst of all that's going on, and we kept moving forward with our capital campaign. And so I want to thank each and every one of you for doing your part. That's all we ask. If you are being blessed by this spiritual community, inquire within. How are you called to give back and support? Because like any organization, it takes resources, and so we're the place where those resources show up. So I want to thank you for your financial provision. It means so much. I also want to thank you for your cards, your texts, your letters. We really appreciate hearing from so many of you. So we're going to sign off this week with a wonderful song by Kat and Mary Kay Williams. They're going to take us out with the song, I Can See Clearly Now. May you have a beautiful week.
I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. Sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue sky. Look straight ahead, nothing but blue sky. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. Oh, it's gonna be a bright, bright, bright. sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day.